I'm going to be going through the garden today looking for pests, and I thought that I might bring y'all along and we'll talk about some of the plants that did well for me this year and some of the plants that did not. And also talk a little bit about what I'm going to be doing next year and some of my plans. You see here, I've been working on moving rocks out here. I've been digging them out of the hill over there because I wanted to do a rock garden here again. I had one last year, but then I let Lily use those rocks for her heart garden. So I've been moving these big boys out here. I got some decent sized ones. I went ahead and planted some celery and Brussels sprouts right here. And I've got my comfrey in here as well. And the comfrey, my goal is to eventually have it on the inside of the chicken run. That way the chickens can kind of pick at it, and I can also make some compost tea with it. And in this section here I've got some broccoli and romaine lettuce. You might be wondering what on earth these sticks are. These are here to keep my dog Morrow from trampling everything, because she will if I don't keep her from it. This particular arch here was my Jarondale pumpkin, and I love this pumpkin. It's just beautiful. It's a big, beautiful green pumpkin. But the downside of it is it's not very prolific. I had 3 or 4 plants right here and I only got 1 pumpkin. So I would say this one was a lot less prolific this year than my previous years. But I do still like doing this one because I enjoy the color. It's just a unique looking pumpkin. You see this banana spider here. You know what's funny about these banana spiders, their webs are yellow, which I think is kind of cool. Kind of neat. But I've been coming out here every day just to look over my tobacco to get those hornworms off of them. Because they've been trying, y'all. They're trying, but I'm not going to let them. This is my garden. I'm not going to let them take over. This is my paprika plant here, and it's done great. This one here, I've already saved seeds from it. In fact, 90% of my garden next year will be from seeds that I saved myself. And it's not around other peppers too, so it should be all right and it should not have crossed. But you know, you never know. But I love to make my own paprika powder. I'll be doing a lot more paprikas next year. This particular arch here was my spaghetti squash arch. And this one did amazing. Went ahead and planted 2 more spaghetti squashes here. You see them growing. We'll see if they produce any fruit. Let's kind of see how it goes. My last plant here that I had 4 of them in each corner, and they ended up getting some of the vine borers, so I've been looking out for them. I see some damage here. Luckily with the vine borers, you can remove them from the stalk of the plant. I want to do a lot more spaghetti squash next year. I'll probably do at least 3 of the arches will be spaghetti squash. Chickens are messing with each other over there. This tobacco here is that Southern Beauty. And I do like the Southern Beauty. It's done really well. It's a beautiful tobacco. It has been less susceptible to blight. The Perique variety has been getting it quite a bit. This one has it a little bit here, I've noticed, on this particular plant. But I still think I'm gonna go ahead and just collect seeds from the healthiest ones, and we'll plant them next year. I've got the Dixie Shade that I've done 2 years in a row that does really well out here. Never had any blight on it whatsoever. And I've got a few volunteer plants of them, and I'll probably be collecting seeds as well from those guys. This eggplant here, don't know what kind it is, but it has struggled. I have had a real hard time with flea beetles, just massacring all my eggplants. This is the only one that's really survived. I've got one little sad one over here that's trying to hang on. I did mix in some basil and some thyme and a marigold plant to see if that might kind of deter the pests at all, but it did not seem to help one bit. So next year I'll be putting more basil and thyme out around them, and also making sure these eggplants are quite a bit separated from each other. I've also been contemplating and doing some research on BT. Oh look, there's a hornworm here on the actual eggplant. First time I've seen them on my eggplant. I've gotten pretty good at chucking them over to the chickens. The chicken run. They're so funny. They get so excited. They love those hornworms. Because with the BT, it only hurts the bugs that are eating the plant. But my one concern is what happens when a good bug eats the bad bug that has eaten some of that BT. I just feel like that would probably kill that bug too. So I don't know. I'm still looking into this, you guys. Because I have not sprayed anything in my garden for 2 years in a row, except water. And I just really would prefer to do that. But there are some plants, like this one here, with that the flea beetles were just too insane. And they're so hard to catch. They're just little tiny little things that jump around like fleas. It can be hard to get them. So I'm not sure. You see, this is one of my okras here. I'm just going to be saving seeds from this one. It has not gotten very big. This particular arch was my cherry tomato arch. I ended up doing way too many cherry tomatoes last year, you guys. Way too many. I see some armyworms on here. I haven't messed with this particular arch in a while. I had the black cherry on this arch, and then I also had the tomato spoon, which just came as kind of a gift packet. As prolific as this tomato spoon was, it just wasn't my favorite. They're so tiny, so you have to harvest so many to get a decent amount. We ended up just kind of letting it go. It was extremely susceptible to early blight, which is kind of frustrating, especially in the beginning. Trying to pick all that off, I eventually just kind of gave up and just kind of let it go. The black cherry, I've done this guy 2 years in a row here. They're obviously quite dead at this point, but I still just love the black cherry. I love the flavor. My family really enjoys them, so I will be doing them again. The only downside is that they got late blight. The late blight ended up not taking out the fruit, and it continued to produce even though it was very sick well into August. So even though this guy was susceptible to that late blight, I'm going to do it again next year. I saved seeds from it, so we'll see if the next generation here in my garden will be less susceptible to late blight. I'm not sure. We'll see how that goes. I had noticed that the tomatoes that I had collected seeds, and that this was their second year in my garden, did a lot better than the seeds that I had just bought from the store. More Southern Beauty here. This poor plant has just gotten massacred. Tomato hornworms will take out your crop very quickly if you're not out here. I would say at least every other day, every 3 days, because if you let them go, they will eat your garden down to twigs. This particular spot was my Odessa squash. And even though it said it was a climber, it was not really a climber. It did not climb. It was not viney, like I would say. Oh, my bird gourds here. I love that arch, by the way. It did really well in the beginning, and I thought that it was going to be very prolific, but then it just it petered out. But I think I'm going to do it again next year. I do like the flavor of the Odessa squash. The Odessa squash is also not as watery. The Odessa squash was very pretty as well. It was a very pretty light green color compared to your darker green of your classic zucchini. So I think I will be using that Odessa to kind of mix up things next year. This was my first year. I'm really trying to mix things up as much as possible and trying to create that bug confusion. The trouble that I had is that I had so many nightshades. It made it harder for me to mix things up as much as I was kind of anticipating, kind of hoping to do. Mara, are you digging up potatoes? Find one? So next springtime, summer seasons, I will be doing a lot less tomatoes. I did about 150, 200 tomatoes this year. There were a lot of cherry tomatoes, and we were just getting overrun, so I don't need to do so many of those next year. And what I'm going to do, each T-post here, I'm going to do a nightshade. In between the two, I'm going to do something else. I'm not sure what yet. We could probably do some borage, some marigolds. Love to mix some basil in there. There's one other thing that I could definitely mix in as well, that I'm going to show you later. Of course, I love my peanuts. I still really love using the peanuts to mix in, especially with the tobacco. It just works very well. They just stay low to the ground, except this one here that's deciding to climb. But Yeah, I'm hoping. Oh, there's a move. Spiderweb. Little egg sac here. Uh-oh. These are the good guys. Whoops. These are the good stink bug eggs, you guys. These ones are the good stink bugs. The spined soldier beetles. Their eggs have little spikes on them. You're not going to be able to see it. I'm going to need I'm good at spotting them. They're actually really interesting looking, so I'm going to just kind of put them back over here. It's harder to see the little spikes on the edges when it's higher up. Really love this particular plant here. This is a salvia that I planted from seed last year. Pretty blue salvia. Nice thing about that one too, it is frost hardy. So it will continue even when it cools down. This one, I went ahead, I had some extra seeds of Tahitian melons. I went ahead and just planted them out here for fun. They're kind of mixed in here with the tobacco and seem to be growing just fine together. So I might do some of that next year as well to mix in some of my actual climbing squash in with other things. You see they're kind of growing just fine together. I would have thought that the Tahitian melon would start climbing and knocking out and taking out the tobacco, but it seems to be just staying on the actual trellis itself. That's kind of interesting. It's the second year I've done Tahitian melons. I love them. They're extremely prolific. They're pretty resistant to disease. Not as much as the Long Island cheese, and we'll get to that in a minute. We'll make our way over here. I got this little lemon tree at Lowe's the other day. It was 75% off. A Mayer lemon. I was not quite sure about the leaves because of the coloring, but it's supposed to be that way. So this will not be hardy here. I'm going to have to bring it inside and put it in my bathroom. You see here, these are my Tabasco peppers that I overwintered in my bathroom. This is their second year in my garden, and they're getting huge. They got massive last year. Last year I had 4. I need to probably stake this one up. It's starting to fall over. But you see, I have tons of Tabasco peppers on here. The thing is I still have a ton of Tabasco peppers in the house fermenting from last year. So I need to get on that and go ahead and make some Tabasco sauce. That's what I wanted to do with those. But I realized I don't know what I'm going to do with all these guys. I don't know if I'm going to just start picking them and going ahead and drying them and just make a powder. And I think next year I will just do one of these. I don't need so many. They're very prolific. I mean, they make so many peppers. Look at this. They're everywhere. These bird gourds, you guys, have been extremely prolific, very vigorous. I mean, they're just going. They're still making gourds. I mean, I still see little ones all over the place. And if you see, I'll kind of go through here. It's coming out over here on this section. And there's quite a few more gourds that are growing over here. I want to do a lot more gourds because I want to do a string of birdhouse gourds across my garden. I'd love to have some martins out here. That would be so neat. I think it would also look really cool. So I'm going to need a lot more gourds than what I grew this year. Look at this pretty plant. It just grows wild out here. I don't know what it is. It's just been growing on the chicken run here. I've got a banana spider as well. It's just very pretty. It's one of the good guys here. It's one of the spined stink bugs. Go under this spider web and show you over here. So this was my corn bed. I did the Silver Queen variety this year, which is a hybrid. Everyone says that it does really well out here. But I had issues with a really bad storm just coming in and just wiping them out, just knocking them all down. And I've also had a big problem with white flies. Let me show you. They suck the sap out of your plant, basically suck the life out of it, dry it out. I realized that's what happened to my corn last year. The thing is with them though, is that they are little flies and I can't catch them all. I don't know, maybe I need to get a net. That's the other reason why I thought possibly BT might be a good thing for this kind of situation, but I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm still researching and looking into that. I'm kind of not into spraying anything in the garden, so we'll see. I am gonna be moving my corn next year up to the house where I have a pumpkin patch. I'll probably just be doing zinnias here in the summer after I harvest my potatoes. In fact, I've got some potatoes here popping up. But I'm gonna keep trying with that corn. Ooh, forgot spiderweb. And I need a duck. I will eventually have success with you guys. This massive climbing squash is my Long Island cheese. And it is still going strong, and I kind of regret letting it go this way because I'm like, now it's really hard for me to get in here. But we just gonna have to really duck here. I've harvested most of the ones off of here, but I still got some more that are growing. And you see this one here. In fact, I probably can go ahead and harvest that one in and bring it in. And then I've got two, y'all, that this is the one thing, if you're gonna grow squash like this on your cattle panels, you need to make sure you come out here and push them through. As you see, this one has gotten stuck, and so is this one. So what I'm gonna do with those two guys is, when I'm ready to just eat them, those will probably be the first ones that we eat, and I make some sort of squash soup. And I'll just have to have Nathan come out here and cut them up for me. Basically cut them out. But, let's see, here's another one here. I've gotten quite a few off this plant. Now I planted, I think I planted 12 total on this arched tunnel trellis. And I'm pretty sure that's what I did last year. Last year I did the Tahitian melon here, and it also did great. But it did start pittering out at this point. This one is not. It is still going, which we'll see. I'm gonna end up having to pull it up eventually because I got my hairy vetch coming up here. I'll be putting out more. And the hairy vetch really needs more sun than what it's getting right now. So we'll see. We'll see how long this guy wants to keep going before I really need to get it ready for my hairy vetch to kind of take over. Got my cayenne peppers here throughout. In fact, I'm gonna be collecting seeds from these guys. I make my own cayenne powder too. I'm gonna be collecting seeds from this one over here. This one's done the best. I think I got some ready in there too. Got them kind of mixed in with the peanuts and the marigolds. They've really taken off since I took out the tomatoes. So I did a bit of a mixture here. I had my lemon blushes out here in this section, and they were wild. They did amazing. Now, the downside with them is that they were susceptible to early blight. I also had quite a few of them get bacteria wilt, which is the first time I've had that in my garden. But I decided I'm not going to do the lemon blush next year. I want to just focus on paste tomatoes, and then I'm gonna do some beefsteaks. I really love that Kellogg's breakfast. It did pretty darn good this year compared to the previous years that I've tried it. It was a lot more prolific this year, wasn't as susceptible to sickness. It eventually did die off from the sickness, but it did a lot better than my previous years because the Kellogg's breakfasts that I planted this year were ones that I had saved from seeds. So they had already had a season in my garden. So this next year, it will be their second season. So it'll be kind of interesting to see what we get. I just realized I had bug guts in my hands. I just went to wash that off, y'all. Anyway, see, I got some cilantro popping up here. I had a paste tomato that I planted this year that I had saved from seeds from last year. And the tomato it made was quite interesting. It was huge. It was a big tomato, like a beefsteak, but the consistency of it was a paste tomato. So I did save seeds from that one, a lot of seeds. And I'm hoping we'll see what we get next year. Because I know most paste tomatoes are just they're on the small side. And they're just, peeling them and stuff is kind of a pain. In fact, I just found out there's such thing as a saucer, which peels and gets rid of the seeds for you. So I'm going to be getting one of those for sure next year. This is another Tahitian melon that I planted for fun here. Now I will be doing that Long Island cheese again, but I think I'm going to put it on my bean tower. I just love this thing so much. Last year we did the Blue Lake green beans on this guy, and they did amazing. I mean, they just went all the way up there. It became a big wild mess, and I just thought it was beautiful. But the Blue Lake variety, it was not my favorite. The skin on it was very tough. We ended up not eating them very much. So I was like, I'm going to do something different this year because I still wanted this to have beans on it this year. I went ahead and did the Chinese long bean on it. And as much as I like those ones, as far as the flavor goes, it just was not very vigorous at all. As you see, I mean, there's not much left of it here. I've got a few popping up. It's the hairy vetch here. I'll be planting out even more hairy vetch probably next week, going through and planting even more so it's nice and thick. So I'm going to have to do some research, and if you guys have any suggestions on a climbing bean that y'all enjoy, please let me know, because I'm not sure what I'm going to do next year. And I want to do something that's going to be very prolific and vigorous, because I want to be able to have enough to can. But I think I'm going to do my Long Island cheese on this teepee next year. I'm still deciding. I have plenty of time. This here was supposed to be my watermelon trellis. Well, as you see, it's finally starting to climb now. These were the Georgia rattlesnakes, and I put them in this partial shade area. They've been doing okay, except they all started getting blossom end rot. And the thing that I think what happened is when I planted out my fall seeds, I had to water the garden. It was just really dry and hot. So I was watering the garden each day, and I think they just got too much water, which made it hard for them to get that calcium out of the soil, and they ended up getting blossom end rot. But next year I'm going to make sure to really work with this soil over here. I haven't done much to it. Throughout the rest of my garden, all my mounds, I put tons of chicken bedding, leaves, grass clippings. So that soil's pretty good. Haven't done much here, so I'm going to be working on that quite a bit this fall, winter. But I got some hairy vetch growing up here too. Up through the marigolds. It's starting to climb. Again, I'll put more out here as well. I want to make sure it's nice and thick so I can just really climb up and be beautiful. I love that hairy vetch too. It works great as a cover crop because when you are ready to take it down, it comes down with ease. It's not sticky. It doesn't want to just stay up there forever. Some of this stuff that climbs, it's going to be a real pain in the bum to get off your trellis. This stuff, super easy. Comes right down, folds down right onto the mound, and then I was able to bury it, and that worked out great. So I love hairy vetch. This one area, this section here, I did the black cherry, and these are pink eyes that I have down low here. I need to harvest some of these guys. And they've done really well. In fact, I grew these here with the tomatoes, and they grew really well together. I wasn't quite sure how that would work. I heard that these were semi-climbers. And yeah, they are semi-climbers, but they're not vigorous at climbing. I've had beans that I've tried to companion plant with my tomatoes before, and they said it was a bush bean. It ended up being so vigorous in climbing. So I've had issues with stuff that says it's a bush bean and it doesn't climbing. That's why I ended up switching over to peanuts, which works pretty darn well. But I liked this one because it does climb a little bit, but it didn't take out my tomatoes. They were able to grow up together without one taking out the other. So I think next year I'm going to do a little bit more experimenting with this particular variety because I do like these pink eyes. They're super fun. And I haven't tried them yet. I can't wait. I'm still working on collecting enough so that we can have them for dinner. But this is something that I'm going to mix in with some of my tomatoes, tobacco, other things. We'll see. I'm going to try it in certain sections and we'll see how it goes. Ooh. That is a fuzzy caterpillar. Goodness gracious. I do not want to touch that one. Let's see if I can just get him off. This one looks like it's the stinging variety, you know? In fact, Lily got stung. Ooh. No, he flew off. He touched me, but I don't know where he went. I'm not gonna go dig. I'm not gonna go dig around for him. I don't like those ones that sting. Freak me out. Lily got stung. Lily was doing some weeding for me. I had some creeping thyme that kind of got a little out of control. So kind of cleaning it up a bit. And she wanted to keep some of the creeping thyme, so she had it on the porch and she was kind of going through it. There was a caterpillar on there she didn't notice, and it fell on the seat. She ended up sitting on it and it stung her on the leg, on the back of the thigh. Weirdest looking caterpillar I've ever seen, y'all. It's called a saddleback caterpillar, and their sting is quite painful, much more painful than you would say a wasp, and some people even have to go to the doctor from the reaction. So that was really creepy. Luckily she did okay. It's still been, you know, oh, look at that. I'm finally getting a loofah. Okay, so these loofahs have gone crazy wild, but I have not seen one loofah on here, one. And I've been wondering, why are they not making loofahs? All of a sudden, look at this. My first loofah. I'm so excited. Look, this thing's going crazy. So this is another plant that has been very vigorous, and now that it's actually making fruit, that makes me really happy. Because we did the loofahs for fun. This is something Lily wanted to do. You see it's kind of taken out over here. Gone crazy over here. Morrow, you got the sneezes. You sneezing? Oh, see over here too, how it's going over here on the chicken run. All the way out here. So this plant is very vigorous, and oh, some honeysuckles. Look at this. I'll have to tell the girls about those. I thought those looked like honeysuckle vines. Huh. Oh, look. I went ahead and threw out a bunch of collards here last week. Late last week. They're popping up. That's fun. I've got cilantro out here. I see it's popping up. So yeah, all my fall stuff's coming up, and I don't have the armadillos digging everything up this year. So hopefully everything fills out nicely. I'm gonna go ahead and just throw out a bunch of carrots too, because I have so many carrot seeds. And after everything really starts coming in nicely, I can kind of go through and kind of clean things up so things aren't getting drowned out by each other. Everything has enough space. And then I'm getting another big load of mulch this week. I moved all of the mulch that I got 2 weeks ago. It seems to take me about 2 weeks to move that much mulch. And let's see, one of the things I did is I'm making these kind of paths here around my main walking areas. I prefer green and living ground cover for my walkways, but there's certain spots where you walk so much that it ends up just being dirt. So this is better than walking in mud. When I get that mulch in, once I have, so what I'm gonna do is when everything is popping up really well, I'm just gonna take a bunch of mulch and mulch everything up real nice and thick so that I'm not having issues with weeds. Look at this here. This is some borage. All my borage, I had some real pretty ones this year that did great. It was a white variety. And I went ahead and I was gonna collect seeds from them, and I was like, you know, I'll just let them reseed themselves, and they are doing that. So I've got them popping up all over the place. It's my habanero pepper here. It's doing pretty darn good. I've got one more down here. We'll be making some of my favorite habanero hot sauce. I love it. It's so good. It's got the habaneros mixed with garlic and onions, and then I just let that sit for months, if not longer. It makes it better. And because, like I said, I've got those Tabasco peppers. It's almost been a year now they've been fermenting, but I do need to do something about those. I've got these little guys here. The nice thing about the borage, it does love the cooler weather. It kind of starts dying off when it gets hot in the summer, but it does survive the frost. So we'll just let these guys go and we'll see how they look this fall, winter. I left this paprika pepper here yesterday. I'm gonna go ahead and get inside and get some other things done for the day. All right, y'all. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Take care, and we'll see you next time.